Hello, friends. Welcome to Live Musings feature on my channel. Our today's guest is very well known to most of you who have interest in tarot and especially in tarot history and historic decks. So today with us, as you can see, we have the incredible Marco Benedetti joining us all the way from Rome. Marco has, as many of you know, has remarkable knowledge on historic tarots and subject of tarot history. He is a card maker who he's created his own deck, and since 2019, he has been restoring historic, ancient, rare tarot decks and bringing them to us. Apart from the cards, Marco is also a hotelier managing hotel in Rome and an audio journalist. So without further ado, let's welcome Marco Benedetti to our live conversation. Hello again, Marco. Ciao.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, we have some people joining us here, so I'll just highlight that. I'll just say hello to everyone, and welcome to joining us for the live conversation. We have quite a lot of people here. Richard is here. Hello, and Cheryl, Woolly Hermit,
Oh,
who is
Richard
new to Terra de Marseille.
and Cheryl.
Yeah, they're here. They were. I mean, I know that Cheryl shared our interview, and I know Richard is my friend. He was very excited as well that you will be joining me. But I'm so very excited and so honored to sit with you today, Marco, and to learn more about you as well, as we don't know about you as a tarot lover personally, but also to talk about your work and the historic tarots that you, the rare decks that you made available to us.
So, where do you want to start?
Where do I want to start? From the very beginning, Marco,
From
as
the
I'm
very beginning.
myself, and I'm
Well,
sure people would love to know more about you, you know.
the next delay on the video, so I'm not sure.
It's probably delayed. If you're looking on YouTube, it will be delayed a little bit, but otherwise, if you turn the YouTube off,
Okay, okay. Now,
yeah,
it's
because if you go through StreamYard, it will be
yes,
like,
yes, it's okay.
yeah,
Sorry.
but on YouTube, it's generally like 1 or 2
Yes,
seconds delay for other
how it
people. Yeah.
started.
Yeah, so let's start with from the very beginning, right? So, from the very beginning of your story with tarot, so can you please share how and when tarot came into your life?
Yes, I like this question. Well, given that I always fascinated by series of images, so playing cards, of course, are a series of images. Tarot, of course, is the one with more images, so is a special aura. And but I didn't know tarot absolutely until I was 18 in 1975, and a friend gave me this book by Italo Calvino. Italo Calvino wrote this novel. Actually, there are two in this book, but wrote this novel for Franco Maria Ricci, who was going to publish the first edition, luxury edition of Visconti Sforza deck in one of these very big books. And was in short, Calvino make crossword with tarot cards, so you can read the stories the way in vertical, and it's really amazing book. One interesting story in this book, because it's really related and the way I am involved in tarot. Calvino made first a novel using a common Marseille deck. Then Franco Mererici sent him the photos of the deck was going on his book, and Calvino immediately realized he had to rewrite from scratch the novel because the images of Visconti Sforza are completely different from uh, Marseille. While the book, looks the book as only the Castle of Cross's Destiny, this book as also the first novel is the Inn of Cross Destiny. So I immediately know, because before having in my hand a tarot deck, that there are different kind of tarot decks. That there is a tradition, but there's something. Then, really, I think a few weeks, 2 3 weeks later, when I finished the book, at the time, playing cards were sold by a tobacconist, and
Yeah.
the tobacconist around the corner, I saw this one in the window. It's the first edition of the Tarocchi Visconti. It was costed a fortune, but immediately bought it because I was crazy for this deck. And but of course, the reason is that quite early that I needed other decks, because yes, it's beautiful, but reading with this one, not only for the size, was a problem. Also, so because the cards, like the strength, is completely out of context. You cannot read with that card. So I bought other decks. I have here my first decks. This is the Cartomancia, the famous Cartomancia 184, is a reproduction. Later I got also the original, but this is a reproduction in the 80s of a deck of the beginning of the 20th century. Then I got also a Marseille. This is the broken box of my the very first Marseille deck.
The Grimoire, yeah.
The Grimaud is this one horrible version with double names. But well, I wasn't smart enough at the time. I really don't like this kind of things. If we have a tarot deck as an origin. This is a French deck. Names must be written in French. Period. If you need written, well, maybe you have better studied that again your books about tarot, because really you don't need the name written in your language. Anyway, sorry for story.
No, no.
Anyway, this were the deck I used for a few years, 2 3 years. Then again in a shop, I saw this one and immediately understood that the author was Scapini. Scapini is the man who made the rebuilt cards for Visconti Sforza and Visconti Modrone.
Yeah.
Immediately understood he was the and what obvious from the first card. He made a modern, usable Visconti deck. And this is the deck that I used most before I had my personal deck. Unfortunately, this deck.
Sorry, would you say that Visconti was the first tarot deck that you were reading with, doing reading for yourself and studying with?
The Visconti, yes, no, I used the Visconti at the beginning, but it was very difficult to use for reading. For meditation is okay, but for reading Visconti is a problem. So I tried to read with the two decks I showed before.
Yeah.
Then I got the medieval Scapini, and I used this deck for many years.
Yeah.
Okay, and we are in the 80s now, of course. A few years have passed. Unfortunately, Scapini has changed as the Rider White decks, and this well is a request from the market, because in that period the tarot world was changing in Europe, at least, but in US I think you had from the beginning Rider White Smith, but in Italy. When I started, it wasn't absolutely the more common deck. More common decks were the one I showed you. Marseille and the Cartomanzia 184.
Yeah.
Uh, but well, I'll talk again about the Science and Pip and Pip cards. Scapini was forced to make this to the market, but it wasn't what I want because I really dislike Science in current.
Mm.
It's like, well, you have an hermetic poetry, and you cannot read that one. You have to read the explanation of by someone. And so you have one explanation, but
Yeah.
well, it's so you know. In, it started for me the idea to make my own deck. Uh, If with modern technology, I think I just print the majors and the Curcarsa by Scapini with a set of Trevigiane. Trevigiane is an Italian deck with 52 cards and with very beautiful pip, and make a deck with this. But we had no printers this quality at the time. Uh,
Mm.
Also, I'm not a painter at all, so I had to find a way to make a deck without being a painter. Without I have a bad hand, as you say.
Yeah,
The
I
draw.
can't draw either.
I can draw, but
No,
I
I
have a
can't.
bad hand. But I've studied architecture, so I can make a professional. I could make when I was young,
Mhm.
professional technical drawing. So I can use the graph and the compass and so on. And I started to make my deck. It's the one you see over my head on the wall.
Yeah, the one that you based on Scapini. You sent me the magnets, so you see, like I have all the magnets in one board.
Yes, my magnets,
Because
sure.
I really like it to show to people because it's so easy. You can just, like stick it and you just throw on the cards don't fall. They're nice and small. But yeah, just going back, a few comments, it's so interesting that you said that your first book that you discovered was Italo Calvino's book. And of course, it's divided
I'm
in.
sorry, you want to know what I studied? The book I studied about art, of course. I studied mostly on the Wirth book,
Oh, okay, Oswald Verse, yeah.
Oswald Wirth. Then I
It's
read
Tarot
all.
for the Magician, right? Tarot for the Magicians in English, it's called.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
this
Hmm.
one, and I read many other books, but the I got the printing for sure from Oswald Wirth. Uh, what I lost the what I was saying.
Yeah, the books, yeah.
The
Italo
book.
Calvino, yeah, Italo Calvino is interesting. I only found out about it about 2 years ago. And I think it's like everyone should read it. It's actually a very fascinating, eye-opening
Mhm.
book. Yeah.
Yes, but of course it's not a book on tarot. It's a novel. It's not a manual of tarot.
No, no, but it kind of, I guess, teaches you in a way how to see the cards as a story.
Mhm.
But also, like with the books, but when you were learning tarot, did you learn it by yourself, or you have a teacher, or a course, or like
No,
something in
no, I
internet?
learned by myself.
Mm.
Then later, I was a teacher for other people, but many years ago, I was a teacher for a few people. But then I stopped. Uh, I lost where we are now in the
Okay,
story.
so like my next question, like I mean, yeah, your deck is of course it's a homage to Visconti, which brings me to the question about tarot history. How did you develop interest in the history of tarot?
Oh yes, of course. Well, the problem of Visconti is not only the strength with the golf player or baseball player instead of the lion, uh, but also the three astronomical cards, star, moon, and sun, are very weak cards, and we know that they are made by another artist. There are many theories on this. Somebody thinks that the origin was only 14 and then was expanded to 22 later. Somebody says, no, they were lost. we don't know, of course. So was interested in reaching the origins of tarot to rebuild these cards that I didn't like. Also, I didn't like the Marseille version, um, because they are different. Anyway, so and then, of course, there was no internet at the time. The best source of information was the first volume of Kaplan Encyclopedia. For the time, was a giant work, and the first basis I got the first basis of knowledge of Mr. Tarot on these books. But well, making a jump, mm, I finally completed my deck, my golden deck, in 1996, after 8 and 9 years of work. And sorry,
So it was, you said 1996.
1996, the version
Wow.
you see on the wall.
You see, yeah, because I thought that you only, okay, so you completed it early, but you published it only in 2014.
No, this is well, it's a long story. It was when I made this deck, I discovered
I just
that
show
it
people
was
so they can see. Hmm.
uh, when I my deck complete, the golden one. I realized that nobody was interested in a pip tarot. I mean, a tarot without chains. So I simply put my deck on the internet. I got the permission to a software company who made soft tarot, something like that, to use the images on my deck. And the deck has been on my internet page for almost 20 years, because it was impossible to print. Also now, to print this deck, I use a very special printer, extremely expensive. I have to charge crazy money for these decks. So I never thought seriously at the time I could publish this deck. Then in 2014, was contacted by a very nice German guy with call him just by name Lorin. He had a thread on I don't remember the big site, now it's closed.
Eclectic? Was it
Eclectic.
eclectic? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So they have a thread about your deck. I've seen the photos of is the origin of Marseille. Please publish this deck. And so we started to chat, and he convinced me to make a version with white background without gold, so a printable version. Of course, I still consider a minor version because this deck is meant with gold. I think gold is important. Well, later, if you want, to tell you the story when I was at the Purple Morgan Library. Anyway, he
No,
convinced me
tell the
to.
story now because you're
I
talking about
tell it,
it. Yeah,
okay.
tell the story, yeah.
And it
Because
was
I was just
1990.
thinking gold is very special here, but yeah, tell the story.
Yes, it was 1992. I was in New York, working with my new wife. We were in honeymoon, and I used to think, I see on the wallpaper Morgan library. Oh my God! I rushed inside.
Like the children in a candy store.
I rushed inside. The only three cards exposed, and I made a mess. Of course, it was 1992. Today, I was in jail, of course, because anyway, I screamed. They called the curator of the museum. Fortunately, she was a very nice Italian origin woman. Mrs. Safiotti. I remember her name. She was very nice, and she invited me see the original in the back of the museum. So I had in my hand a few of these cards, and was unbelievable. And I realized that I mean I knew this one printed, no gold. When you
Yeah.
see the original in the gold with gold, see this is completely another thing. And this gold fascinate you. Then later I discovered is a dirty trick of paint. This maximum of light, the gold background. And I realized that it is mandatory for reading because help you to, I don't want to say to go in trance, but to detach.
Mm.
It gives an aura to the images. It's difficult. But, well, you have the the.
Yeah, I have my gold with your like
Yeah,
pasta. Yeah.
these are the money. It also you have to look from very far, and
Mm.
maybe you can understand what I mean. And so in
Yeah.
that moment, I realized that I had to make a golden deck. So the point, if you want, is in 1992, I wasn't sure I was going to make a new Visconti. I wanted to make an original deck. The Ur Tarot is a Dunning-Kruger idea. I mean, I wasn't ready at the time to make the Ur Tarot, of course. I'm admitted that, and now I probably am not even now.
Mm.
Anyway, in that moment, I understood that I needed the gold for the background of my deck. My
Yeah.
deck was ready for years later, and I understood very quickly that nobody wanted this deck. Also, I had a friend, a journalist friend in New York. She contacted the US Games, and they sent me how do you say, the paper to
Mm.
fill to propose a deck. It was clear it was not, my deck was not accepted by default because they required that every card must have a scene, so we don't want pip cards. Sorry.
Yeah, they are known for their illustrated art.
Okay, Americans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, 1996 was again still too early to self-publish.
Mm.
You needed to go to a publisher, and oh, I did. I knew anyway, thanks to my friend who talked to US Games, that you'll never be rich unless you are Ciro Marchetti. You'll never be rich painting tarot.
Mm.
And that's okay. It's an hobby for me. I'm here for fame and glory. I'm not interested in making money with tarot.
Yeah, but it's a passion, so of course, yeah.
Yes,
But what I'm curious, are you would you consider yourself a tarot collector, or you don't really collect tarots?
yes, I'm a collector. Yes, I have most of my decks are ancient decks, with few
Mm.
exception.
Yeah, can you talk about your tastes, like in your collection? So you prefer historic ancient decks, but do you have a particular like region or origin of tarot that you prefer?
No, I like
Yeah.
the oldest tarot. Let's say pre RVS decks.
Hmm.
I have very few RVS. I've the just for collection the three decks. I have four actually of De Laurence. I have the yellow, orange, and two different red. I have well, first edition of the University Press. So I have the oldest American decks, if you
Mm.
want. But just to have them. Also because I printed the Lawrence deck, so I wanted to have the original. But speaking of modern deck, there are very few decks like.
Mm.
I'll show you one
Yeah,
if
show
you
us. Yeah.
want. One is a modern deck. Actually, I discovered my father had this deck before I started using tarot. Is a deck made by, sorry, here. Okay, this is the
Okay.
this is Gianni Novak, is a modern artist in Italian. It was made
Wow.
it. Sorry, trying to read when he made it. It's, I don't know. It's a limited edition for Alitalia in 75, 76, about. These are the cards,
Very interesting.
and this septet is very rare and hard to find deck. Sorry, I'm not easy to show cards. And this is one of the few modern deck I like. If you ask me what is the best deck of the last, I don't know, starting from the beginning after 1926, the second Virt, I'd say the Scapini is the best modern deck I know.
Mm.
Speaking of standard usable decks.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is one of the few artist deck that I really like, and I think that I possibly could use it for reading. Of
Mm.
course, I don't need a reading deck because I have my deck, my own deck. So, but this is a very,
It's very interesting. It's very unique. Yeah.
because in my experience, all the great artist decks, Dali, Guttuso, so on, are the tarot by Dali or Gottuso are not a tarot deck, a usable tarot deck. My humble
Mm.
opinion, of course. Well,
Yeah.
stop here. Anyway,
What was, again, Marco, what was the name of this artist for this deck?
Gianni Novak,
Only Novak. Okay.
Navak.
Hmm. Well, thank you for sharing. Yeah, I haven't seen this tarot before.
Yes, it's very rare. You can find on eBay about $200 usually.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
running.
Wow.
Then other important decks. Well, I have this one. I have not one but two series of weird planches of 1926 and same.
Oh, wow.
And
Because
now,
with Bird, it's only the Mage's only deck that he made, Oswald Wurst himself.
yes, this is the one of the deck that I reproduced with gold foil. Actually, this one is not gold foil; it's gold ink. So, if you want, my deck is hyper realistic. Go over the original.
Oh, that's beautiful. And your decks, you normally do it through Facebook, right? I highlighted here your Facebook page, so people can contact you on Facebook and then contact you directly, correct?
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, the details will be included. But that's Marco's Facebook page for those of you who are interested to get one of the decks. And you did mention about how like how Salvador Dali tarot is not usable for youths for reading. So do you still read tarot for yourself and for other people?
Sorry, can you repeat the
Yeah,
last?
yeah. No, when you showed the recent deck that you said that it's very usable for readings,
Mhm.
and like some artist decks like
Yeah,
Salvador
yes.
Dali, beautiful art, but you can't really use it. But my question about reading, do you still read tarot? Do you do tarot reading for yourself and
Dunque,
for other people?
not often.
Mm.
Read sometimes. I've been for many years a tarot reader, a daily tarot reader, let's say. They told me that I was good also, but and for sure a very good pupil. A friend of mine, she I learned there to retard, and she's much better than me now for sure. She's is an incredible reader,
Mm.
and Tiberia, her name, if she is looking, but I don't think she's here. Uh,
Wow.
no,
Wonderful.
I've been, I told you, I've been a reader for many years, but it was a really tiring, exhausting. So
Mm.
at one point I said had to say, okay, let's stop. And now you start not for reading future because I think it doesn't work, especially if you're reading for yourself, but
Mm.
for meditation. Uh,
Yeah,
but
meditation,
But
reflection. Yeah.
I like important for me to say this. I like to make decks for readers.
Mm. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's why I want to move our conversation to now. We talked about your Visconti, which is the homage, but from 2019, you've been restoring decks and making decks for other people, right? So I'm curious to hear, when was that point of time when you knew that there was interest now in the world for ancient historic decks?
well, 10 years ago it started. 10 years ago, after I told you, after I published the my deck initially on the Game Crafter, uh, thanks to the German guy,
Mm.
I started following a group that was usable. I mean, there was all the tarot forums were impossible for me. People was always knew how to read this spread, what's the meaning of this card in this position. Actually, people wanted to turn positive and any reading. So you have the worst card in the world. No, but this one means now you can also the creative reading as is making disasters. I mean, anyway, sorry, joke. I wasn't in internet tarot life until I discovered the forum of Ross Caldwell, Tarot History, the
Mm.
forum that now is on Facebook.
Facebook, yeah.
And then I found other people interested, like me, in the origins of the tarot, so the evolution of the symbols, because why this symbol started this way, and so on. So I started also see printing, but for myself. See, my first restoration, public restoration, the restoration I made in public was. After I started making, because, well, there is another step in the evolution of my involvement in tarot. I mean, at this point, uh, I'd I switched from a deck, a page with my deck on the internet period, and to a page on the game crafter when I could sell a deck. I got a
Mm.
few bucks every deck I sold. Uh, that's finished. Then I started to no wait. I forgot an important thing. In this period, I discovered that the special printer I use now. I used to print your magnet, for instance, so the printer
Mm.
who make gold. Uh, uh, so I realized that I could finally print my deck as is intended, because my original deck is. I'll show you. This is the one I've used for 25 years, exhausted, of course.
Mm.
But the other deck, because I had two copies, if so this is
Wow.
the original, not damaged. So I made this is made with a real gold foil. Of course, it take weeks to make a deck this way,
Of course.
and it's possible to sell it. So I realized that even at very expensive, in a very expensive way, I could print my deck with this printed. And at this point, I met Cheryl Smith, which is online, I think, I've seen her before, on a tarot history group.
Mm.
And she told me, I have your deck. She told me that she had my deck on of the game crafter, so the one with the white background, started to chat. And well, I'd say that Cheryl convinced me to make a real Visconti homage. I
Wow.
mean, I only was concentrated in making the three astronomical cards new, but uh, when I did the first deck, I didn't know the original tarot, of course. In time, I knew that the Bolognese and the Florentine tarot originally were quite different from Tarot de Marseille, not only in these three cards, and the lovers, of course, the two or
Mm.
three person of the
Yeah.
lovers.
And with Cheryl, I know I did see on her page that she appreciates your work. And Cheryl Smith, of course, is well known and well in the tarot community of the people who are very interested in tarot because she has an amazing blog, which is an amazing
Yes.
resource. And also she features quite a few of your decks there, Marco. Yes, but with not historic decks, because the ones that you restored and reproduced, they're very rare, right? It's not very common to see them. How do you decide which deck you want to restore?
Okay. Well, the first, except for the Vir deck, that I made this deck just because of gold. I mean, after I made I printed my
Mhm.
gold deck. I was looking for other deck usable with gold. I mean, I think well, there are a lot, millions of people that printing tarots have to do something different. I can do golden tarot, very expensive tarot, golden tarot. Then was really by chance. Of course, I had on my computer many decks, many cards scanned from books or then now I got from the internet. I had the Rosenwald tarot on my computer, and after my deck and the Virt, the Golden Virt, remember it was I think the 1920, 28, sorry, 2018, so not many years ago, was the day of my birthday where I had insomnia, birthday insomnia. So I started to color the Rosenwald with exactly the same colors I used in my own deck.
Mm.
And the morning later, I sent this one again to Cheryl. Cheryl, look at what I've done. I said, you have to do it in me. So this was the first not golden deck I
Mm.
made.
The first
So
historic one that, yeah. But can you show us? Can you show us your Rosenwald tarot?
sure, where is the Rosenwald?
And can you tell a little bit more? Because I mean, I know some people who are here, they're very knowledgeable on tarot history, but many people, they don't know much about historic tarots. Can you tell us a little bit about Rosenwald, like little bit of origin
Sure,
or why, like why, yeah, its
of course.
uniqueness?
The Rosenwald deck is three sheets, black and white sheets. about an A3 sheet model that was found inside the cover of an ancient book. The ancient book is dated 1501, so is the deck is obviously older.
Mm.
Is a very small. These three sheets have 24 cards each, so we have 72 out of 78. Take in mind that there are two different decks. We have two sheets with a complete Spanish deck, cioè Italian deck, but in Spanish style, which means without the 10.
Mm.
And of course without the queen, because an Italian decks have no queens. It's of 48 cards, and the other sheet has 21 majors except the full and 3 queens. The size of the cards is almost the same. They were found together in the same book. Okay, originally it's not the same, but so you must complete this. And I wasn't the first one to do this. My friend at a role at a remake of this deck, Sullivan Eastman made the facsimile in black and white.
Mm.
I made a modern version, right? Modern color with the ancient restore.
And what did you do with the extra cards? Did you restore the
I,
missing
I
card?
rebuilt. I rebuilt. Yes, I missed. I'll show you the cards
Yeah,
now.
show us. Yeah, show us
It's
as we
a very small deck, as you can see.
Yeah, I love small decks.
This is the version. Right, it's difficult to show, but these real overlapped edges over the.
Okay. And with also, if you can just mention for people who are interested in card making, overlapped edges, it used to be quite popular to produce the decks like that, right? Historically.
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
Yeah, with the overlapped borders, like the overlapping the
Yes.
border. Is
Mhm.
it like a historic way to produce decks? How they used
Yes,
to
of
do
course.
them?
This is the way of making cars in Italy until the beginning of the 20th century.
Hmm.
Uh,
Beginning to the 20th century, right?
yes, if you look closely at the images of also the Visconti cars, for instance, you can see even these cars have the overlapped edges.
Mm,
The difference is this one you have the images, then the overlapped edges goes over,
mm,
while the ancient deck, illuminated deck, were prepared before with their overlapped edges and then were painted over. In fact, in this deck you have sometimes the figures go out of the frame, but this is
mm.
this is the detail.
Oh, that's
Yes,
interesting. Yeah. Mm,
yes, this is and to say is difficult to make these cars, but with my surprise, it worked. Um, I don't know if I can show you. It's difficult to show how is it shuffling. Yeah,
okay.
how
Wow.
do they shuffle well? And it was really a surprise for me when I understood that it was okay. It was an L to make a deck this way because a linen to glue it small sheets is really I don't- okay. You understand what? But the cards have a air cushion because of the border, so
Mm,
they slide in an incredible way. And she thought, "Ma, maybe I may," but I sent a deck to Shell. She confirmed, yes, you are absolutely right. It's a dream to shuffle. Ah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
have to.
Wonderful.
But this I made many years, few years later. Initially, of course, I made just the standard version of this small deck.
Mm.
It's one of the oldest deck. Actually, is probably except the illuminated deck. We have only two decks of the 15th century. This one and the so-called Budapest.
Mm.
These two decks are what remains of a century.
Yeah, sure, you
Ah,
can feel it in the model of the stuff beautifully. But did you do them by hand, Marco? So you did every card by hand with the border?
There's no other way.
No other way, yeah, wow.
You have to make the cards bigger, then you flip.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
hopefully, if I meet you in Italy, I would like to hold them to see how they feel.
sure, sure. A few decks make this way.
Mm.
So to say, when I understood that this was fantastic to have usable cards, I even made my Italian playing cards, the 40, the Catholic playing Briscola Scopa with overlapped edges and
Wow.
full figures. I show you.
Because it's interesting, you see, like I thought in the past that they would be difficult to shuffle, but like, yeah, clearly not.
See, these are my Italian cards with
Are they the
overlapped
playing card?
edges and full feature. These
Yeah.
are the Piacentine.
Hmm.
Is one of the most common cards in Italy. Well, shuffle, it depends on what you mean, because if these people
Hmm.
shuffle this way and no deck is made to be shuffled this way. Let's say the truth.
Yeah, yeah. I shuffle on the corner. Yeah, I shuffled like you showed, but on the like on the like ritual, but on the corner. Yeah.
Yes, the only way, in my opinion, is this one to shuffle.
But some people say that it's too aggressive. You know, some people shuffle on the overhand because they
You
think
can
doing
do
that
it this
is
way,
too
yes.
aggressive.
You can, but you have to do for a long time to have
Yeah,
to have a real mix.
yeah. I think
Well,
everyone is
I think
different.
again, I think cards must be used. I mean, try to give back to life decks that are because they miss two cards are used. Like this one misses. Sorry, not this one. The Rosenwald
Mm.
misses six card and is in black and white. I made these six extra cards and the colors. Then you can like my version or not. But I have a usable
Mm.
Rosenwald. Uh, this is the spirit of decks like this, or restoring the Budapest, or the Rolling Stone is another deck I may make later. Rolling Stone is another interesting story, because in 1919, what is the bridge back?
I think it's probably the back of the Rosenwald. Did you mean the more like the squares little backs?
Ah, this one.
I think so. I think that's what you meant, Woolly Hermit, right? Yeah.
Okay, I lost what I was saying. I forgot.
Ah, you were saying like unique, one of the unique decks is Rolishon as well?
Ah, the relation, yes. In 1919, a magazine, La Rousse Illustrated, published an article about Tarot de Marseille, showing black and white images of the 22 majors and other 13 cards, including four figures, one of a per seed and one per roll, four common cards and the four aces, plus the two of coins. That's why we know that this deck is a Rolling Stone, and this
Mm.
is the only images we have of this deck. We know because somebody found the note in a sale. I don't remember when, of this deck. So this deck existed, but nobody knows where this deck. Again, wasn't the first one to try to restore the Rolling Stone. Honestly, I made it because I bought a version, I didn't like it, so I said, okay, I can do it better. Uh, um, I wanted to make a full version because making only the reprinting only the majors is nonsense. And one thing, if you have Divirt, is thought to be 22 majors only. Ma-
Originally.
Printing only the majors of a Marseille, I don't see the point.
So with
So
the
I
release one, can you just remind us again, like when? I mean, which? I guess if you know the year, do we know the year it was originally published and the region, the origin of Rolishon? The yeah,
religion is
yeah, Lyon, Lyon. Yeah.
Lyon, and supposed to be the if we found it, it's supposed to be the oldest Perrault de Marseille, oldest than Noblet. But of
Mm.
course, nobody ever seen this except the people
Yeah.
who made the article 100 years ago.
Yeah, because you know now there is a talk. Remember the auction, the
Yeah,
Vashia, Tero Filipe Vashia?
yes,
Now
yes,
it's like that's the known one.
yes, Vashi. I show you the Vashi.
Mm. And show us the Rolishon as well, because some people they don't know your decks. So if you can just show a
The
few cards.
Vashi,
Hold on.
the expensive Vashi. Here, the Vashi.
Where did you get the images from?
Sorry.
Where did you get the images of the Vashia from? Did you print it from online?
Of course, I stole
Yeah.
on online.
Yeah.
You want the Rolling Stone? Sure. Where is the Rolling Stone? Here's the Rolling Stone. So for the Rolling Stone, I used again, let's say flat colors, like in
In your
like
Visconti.
the Visconti or the Rosenwald, but I used traditional Marseille deck. So the point was just choosing the right palette, so blue, this green, and so on for the color. And then, well, it was easy. I used cards from Dodal and Payenne, the black and white, to show to obtain the missing cards of the. So this is meant as a modern deck.
Mm.
So like the Marseille, the Grimaud I showed before, which
Yeah.
has the flat colors. But I say that my goal was Flournoy. Flournoy made Dodal and Noblet with this style. I mean, with black and white with new flat colors, and made a masterpiece, especially the unmade version. Unfortunately, majors only again. And card rolling.
Mm.
Like this is one card that is interesting because in Rolichon because looking left, and I think is is right.
Nice.
Is one interesting thing. I like to think that the at least in Visconti, in my Visconti homage, the star is Venus, and the all these Marseille decks here have I don't know which version you have.
Of this one? Oh, let me just find
Yes, you have this version. You can no, it's standing, but you see there is a
That's
white
the star,
bird.
right?
Yes, the white bird.
Yeah.
This is the only Marseille card I know with a white bird.
Okay.
Mhm. Uh, the white bird are linked to Venus. Usually this bird is black in all the Marseille
Mm.
deck I know except this one. So, of course, this is my fantasy also because we have only the black and white. So maybe is not black, but it was brown.
Mm.
So anyway, I like to think that is closer to my idea of the origin
The original Venus, yeah. Okay.
of this star card. The moon is beautiful and
Mm.
drawing because we have a code, a rigid code in Marseille. Ex- Well, I recently printed the deck which break these rules, but it was tradition. Here, okay, I didn't want to have the censored bottom of the full. This deck is supposed to be older than Noble, which is not so censored, so I made it without the reverted colors, as usually we see the full.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, this is the last version of my Rishon.
But since we are talking about Terre de Marseille decks now, so let's have a chat more because the Vashia Terre, it's very. I mean, it's not identical, of course, but it resembles quite heavily the Payen from 1743. Would you say that? Have you done a little bit of work like comparing Bashir and?
Well, I have not all the Vashi cards. I could stole few cards from photo on tarot history.
Yeah.
So I cannot make a complete comparison to Vashi, but the decks are extremely similar. Yes,
Mm.
extremely similar.
Yeah, because I really love this payen from you. And can you talk why you decided to? Because you know how we have Jean Payen, different one, Jean Pierre Payen, 1713, and this one at 1743. So why did you decide to restore this one, to print this one for us?
Well, the other one was printed by Yves Renault, so
Hmm.
we don't need the other one. Anyway, this is the older Payen. While
Yeah.
the deck is dated differently, this is the old one.
I don't know why my
Uh,
camera doesn't want to focus today.
and also, well, I'll tell you the real story. I wanted to have all the available Tarot de Marseille of Type 1. So I wanted also this one.
Hmm.
And there's one for sale, but it's a handmade version, so expensive that I understood it was less expensive to buy the permission to print the deck.
And you got the permission from the Fournier Museum, right? This one is kept in
And
the
actually,
Fournier.
they were very nice. They didn't ask for money, but I thought that I was ready to pay as I pay to get the images from British Museum. British Museum were very nice. Also, please send you 2 copies of the deck that I sent. But I was ready to pay because it's cheaper than the handmade. And then okay, let's make a version. I think maybe it's my first version edition of 50 and made of 50. No, no, it's not the first one because I always made very small series. Also because I tried to make something using Ludo cards with a factory in Italy. It's very good quality. But for the decks, most of the deck have to do, you cannot use the factory. Of course, if not for things like the overlapped edges, but also for decks like the Rollichon. You see, the Marseille decks have usually a very thin border uh, around white border. And with factories, we have to make a wider border because of the tolerance of the cutting machines. Actually, if you see my the game crafter of make playing cards version of Rolly Shawn, the main difference with the handmade is the bigger white border
Mm,
around. Things like this you can only have cutting by hand the cards, and,
yeah.
because
Because the payen is cut by hand, right?
of course.
Yeah, and like this is so, and I don't know, like I think people can hear because the paper is just so beautiful, and just because the sound of the paper,
Well,
it's magic magic. I absolutely
well,
love it. It's just such a treasure, Marco.
Well, in fact, it is unmade, but it's made well. I mean, the cars must be perfectly straight. It cannot be uneven cars just because you unmade. You can make it in the right way. The cars
Mm,
are cut one by one with a guillotine cutter. Of course, you have a something to stop. You have a stop for cutting all the same.
yeah.
You have to well you have to use some tricks to obtain the car. And these cars are is not a single sheet. Is two different sheets glued with different, as we say, texture. They are
Mm.
both laid paper, but the front is uh, with bigger grooves than the back.
The texture, yeah.
Yes, take in mind that at the time, the best paper was used not for the images but for the back,
Oh, was
because
it?
yes,
Okay.
because they are playing cards. When you play cards, you need that nobody knows
Yeah,
the cards
what
from
intent? Yeah,
back.
yeah, that's right, yeah.
And this is illuminating this new. Is on a book from Ian Clancy, one of the friends on terror history. I bought this book and explained this thing. It was amazing for me.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. No, and these cards, they're superb and the colors are beautiful. It's actually you probably don't know, but this deck has become one of my favorite Terre de Marseille decks.
Yes, he told me something like
Yeah,
this.
because I like type one, but like for many years, since 2016, with type one, Jean Dodal was my favorite, right? Until Jean Payen 1743. Because
Mhm.
it's just I don't know, I love the facial expressions, but they are not as probably sharp as Dodal. They're softer, but still they have that kind of, that crankiness in them, I guess. And yeah, absolutely. And yeah, for people who are watching, I'm curious to hear, like with your type one, which deck do you prefer from the historic type one? We have a question for you, Marco, quickly from Richard. Is there a deck that you would really love to reproduce? Yeah, I have the question, the same question, Richard. So, Marco, you can answer this question.
No, Richard,
Yeah.
change idea every minutes. I made deck. I decided to make decks in 5 minutes without knowing before. So to say, a story. Few years ago, I bought the Carte fine della Torre by the Museo Internazionale dei Tarocchi, uh, and I bought it in the rush without understanding it wasn't a facsimile, but a remake. So it's a tremendous work. For instance, I couldn't make this work,
Mhm.
repaint from scratch the deck like the Carte fine della Torre. Not not even to mention, but it wasn't what I wanted. So I wanted a facsimile. By mistake, I bought the remake. So I said, okay, I have the image on the computer. I do it. I printed this deck, printed it in the original size that is smaller than the remake. I like it. Oh, maybe I can publish this deck because sometimes I print decks just for me, like the Italian cards I showed before. And then sometimes you find that maybe it could be interesting. I have a question for Richard. Maybe Richard can tell us if, in his opinion, this tarocchino, double-headed tarocchino, could be a candidate.
Yes, have a look, Richard. No pressure.
This is a very funny tarocchino. Is hand painted. Is not stenciled. So is made with superior quality in respect of standard decks. Of course, it's double-headed, but this is a very special deck. Maybe I'm considering for buying the permission to reproduce this deck. This is a personal test, of course. This is a possible deck, next deck.
But are there any other ones that you have projects going on, or that you started, or not yet? Like any other projects that you have for us to share?
Well, I always have, let's say, maybe 10 projects going on, and maybe one of them go to the end. Every time I spoke before of a project, I never ended. So,
Yeah, okay. So yeah, sometimes it's good to keep
it's
them to
better
yourself.
not to anticipate this
Yeah.
project.
So it looked like Richard shows the emoji, so he likes it, and Cheryl is saying that she loves the Tarantino colors. Marco, you mentioned Carte Fini della Torre, right? And I know that you, there are I'm not very well versed in Italian historic decks. So Carte Fine della Torre and Carte Fini al Mondo,
See,
both Bolognese, but is it the same, similar deck, or they're different ones?
I show you the difference.
Mhm.
So,
And also, can you share, because I saw yesterday you posted on your Facebook that it was quite exciting that British Museum, they made an amendment about
yes,
the Fine del Mondo.
yes. This is Carte Fine della Torre with the version with overlapped edges. Is my limited edition. After this, because the Bolognese cards are very similar. For centuries, you had always the same images, except few example. These are the only known popes and emperors in Bolognese style.
Right.
Carte Fine della Torre. While, in my opinion, as I wrote to the museum, this one, the Carte Fine al Mondo, is the oldest tarocchino with the four Moors. You know the story of the four Moors?
Oh, you can tell us, because I don't think everyone knows.
Yes, in 1975, for a political question, the Pope had Bologna, the city of Bologna had a problem with the Pope. But it was a tarot deck, the special decks with histories, so instructive decks, in which Bologna was described as independent, and Bologna was under the Vatican, the Pope state. There was a problem with the Pope, and big tempest in a glass, we say in Italy, and the story ended that in Bologna they banned the Pope and the popes, and so they made, but only three, no, here the four, here the four popes, the four
Moors.
Moors. And if you look at these four Moors and all the existing Moors, you see that these are different. A closer as a position, or so here you have so let's see. we have two scepter. You
Let me
can
just.
see one with moon and one with the sun. So
Yeah,
for
that's
me,
right.
it's
Yeah.
quite obvious. We have emperor and empress.
Ah, okay, so you know because of the sun and the moon, that's how you can distinguish.
Yes, yes, for this. So,
Yeah.
these cards are more derivative uh, from of the popes of the della Torre.
Mm.
So, I'm almost sure that this is the oldest existing or known better known tarocchino with Moors. So it's a special deck for this, and well, I shouldn't say
Mm.
but these cards are really gorgeous. These full moons, I really
Yeah,
love this.
they are. But with those two decks, with the date of origin, are they about from the same, like same decade?
No, no, no. The Carte Fine al Mondo, as I told you, is after 1725
Okay,
when
after
when
1720.
popes and emperor were banned. While Carte Fine della Torre is we don't know for precisely, but I'd say if not 178 years before, so
Okay,
middle
yeah,
of
yeah.
17th century, about, but we don't
Mm.
know for exactly.
Yeah. I've always, you see, I still don't have Carta Fine della Torre, but I always found them very charming, how they're drawn. They're like friendly and soft and nice colors.
Yes, and also there you find the original images of the Italian tarots again in the especially in the three astronomic cards.
Hmm. Yeah, wonderful. Um, your most, can you talk to us about your most recent decks? And you can just begin, if you will, if you just begin with the Navarro tarot, because what's unique about Navarro, it's an Italian tarot de Marseille, which we don't see many of type one.
Yes, here's the Novaro. Yes, where Novaro is very close as a drawing to the Payen
Okay.
drawing, but colors are completely different, as you can see.
Yeah, those blues are like, yeah, that's what attracts me to it, the blue colors.
Yes, and this deck was made in Ortelia with a place who changed from Italy and France twice in the 19th century. Sorry, 18th century. Uh, in a place, sorry, I lost. I told you before it's a place where clothes changed, and we don't know exactly it was in France or Italy.
Mm.
Italy didn't exist at the time, so
Okay.
the kingdom of Savoia. Uh, Anyway, geographically is in Italy, and I'd say for sure the colors. I think that the wood blocks are obviously older, very old. They also perishedly very used. My opinion is that the car maker Novaro obtained some old French wood blocks, but without the stencils, because you know that wood blocks have the companion stencils for make the colors. So I think that you asked somebody not exactly familiar with Tarot de Marseille to make colors and obtain this deck that is exactly the colors, the drawing of Tarot de Marseille Type 1, but completely crazy colors. and I think it's fascinating. This yellow I like very much because it's strong, vibrant, but is warm. It's not a nice yellow, and
Mm.
this blue petrol. Is very nice. I can say that the camera and the light is changing a little
Yeah, but I did.
of
I'll
the
post again.
color,
Yeah, but
etc.
when people go to your Facebook page, they will be able to see.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Here
And
you
for
can.
example, and like some of your decks, many people on YouTube, we did walkthroughs, right? So people can watch videos or people can go to your Facebook page and see the photos.
Sure. Here you can see that is an Italian deck because if you know some Piemontese deck,
Mm. With big pants of the
yes,
food.
the big pen. So the drawing is the same, but the censorship is went over. What's interesting is the censored also the world. You see that the big spot, black spot on the where is the lab? How do you say the alloro? Anyway, but they forgot to censor the devil. That's,
Okay.
that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, the the pips are very well drawn. For example, if you compare these pips to the Dodal one, were very rough make engraving. They are much better making. I mean, regularity of the drawing and so on. But again, the woodblock are very perishes. So, for instance, you can see there is
The
uh,
bleeding of the paint.
yes, a lot of black lines are missing because the woodblock was very old.
Mm.
So it is an outsider deck, of course. It's like the we say if you want. But if you want a different deck or collect all the TDM deck, okay,
Mm.
yes, please. I have to say that I always try to make a special, very important deck. I mean, we have not talked about my Visconti, my Chelsea's deck.
No, that's what I wanted to ask you about, in your opinion, because I mean, you love your decks. I know that you probably
She-
love all of them, but which ones are the most special as aesthetically because of their beauty, but also most special historically, the having that historic importance.
As in historical importance, for sure, the Chelsea's. This one, as you can see, is bigger than Visconti. Chelsea's, what is?
How
I
many cards are there in that one?
can you
How many
repeat?
cards? How many cards does it have?
I have 93 cards here
93 cards. Wow.
because I have 15 duplicates. So I
Mm.
tell you the story. Chelsea's, the so-called Chelsea Star is composed by 16 majors and one page of spades. But we have other cards of the same era and made in, I think, in Florence. For instance, this card is from another deck. It's from Alessandro Sforza deck, and you can see that it's the same pattern with this frame. You
Yeah.
see a dark frame. Actually, it was silver with a decoration. So I realized this one is the Bagato from Ercole d'Este deck. The original is smaller than this, but it was resized. As you can see, you can put together these cards So I found 35 figures, about no, 35, sorry, majors, but with duplicates. So I had to remake for cars. For instance, I used the Visconti Popes, not the Visconti Sforza, and another one with a new frame to remake. But of course, with something not stylistically correct, because we have mixed style, because we have five different decks mixed. But well, I think that somebody had to make the this deck alive again. So together, putting together these cards, I obtained a deck, a complete 78 cards deck, plus the doubles, so the cards that I didn't use. So I can say that is a complete collection of illuminated fluorescent cards. And so, speaking of importance of the deck, I'd say this is the most important. It's not perfect, because to make it perfect, I have to make a better rebuild, a better restoration of the digitally restored pips, something like this. But as important, I think, is where, or let's say, where I use it more my brain. Okay.
Yeah, so it's more important historically for studies. Yeah, yeah, for
Yes.
people who are
I made,
interested.
I think I made something important. I shouldn't say myself, but
Mm.
is what I think. Then I make, well, I printed, I restored a few decks. I printed the facsimile of other decks. For in different, I can make decks with gold foil and with overlapped edges.
Mm.
I also made my personal deck, reading deck, with both, with gold and overlapped edges.
So which one is your personal reading deck?
Yes, I'll show you.
So that would be probably, I would say that probably would be the most special for you. Because if you made personal for you,
This
so you made the Visconti with the
Visconti is a small size Visconti, again with the same overlapped edges of the Rosenwald.
mm.
Well, these are square and not diamond, but again, this is
And how did you go about it? Did you print it yourself, or you had the gold foil printed by somebody else, and then you did the overlapping of the edges?
no. Okay. I have told you before. I have a special printer. It's a
Mm.
machine printer. Is not person. Is a machine printer made in Japan, and now out of production by more than 10 years. And was made for printing decals, water slide decals, for models of, for example, you make scale models of cards or army and so on. And between the feature of this printer is to print gold and silver foil in a single pass. I
Wow.
mean, the big problem when you have metallic like this, and you have to align to different paths of the sheet, and you never get the perfect alignment.
Mm.
Uh, um, this printer not only print gold and silver, and not ink, is a metallic foil, really, but also make it without ejecting the sheet, so you make it perfectly aligned. So this is the particularity of this machine I use for gold.
Mm. Yeah, wonderful. We
Yeah.
have a question from Richard. Does Marco have a favorite card? So favorite card in a deck.
The Empress.
The Empress, why?
I don't know.
Don't know.
The Empress make me think to exploding energy.
Hmm.
Well, I,
I
I,
think my favorite overall is the Star. I like the Star card.
the Star is a real another very nice card. I try to show the concept, the expansion in this card. I don't know if
Mm,
the idea of explosion
yeah.
goes on. Makes me think of this. But
This
of course,
is beautiful with overlapping. Like your Visconti with this overlapping looks really nice.
uh, well, it's a mess to make because also almost impossible to sell because putting the overlapped edges usually I ruin the gold.
Mm.
So it's difficult to make a perfect deck. So I never tried to solve this one because going to
Yeah, but sometimes perfect is not perfect. Perfect is imperfect.
yes,
Well, that's why probably I like Tarot de Marseille and I like woodblocky decks because they are not perfect, but that
yes,
makes them perfect.
yes. This is okay, but of course, if you make a modern deck with everything aligned with flat colors and with ruined gold, is not, and
No, yeah,
especially
it's
also because
challenging.
it's an expensive deck, so it must be perfect, of course.
Yeah. Do you have any other decks that you would like to share with us? That you
Other
would like people to know, people who are new to your work?
Other decks. I want to show you one deck that I have not published, but
Mm.
it's maybe the second deck I printed after my own. I don't know if somebody knows this deck. It's Major Only.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think I know.
This deck is obtained by the book by Oswald Wirth, the
Mm.
Tarot Magician. So, at the end of the book, you have 22 symbols of the tarot. Of course, it's always esoteric, Masonic, and so on. So, I it's not exactly my kind of deck, but this one was important to develop my idea of my of tarot of majors. I mean, as I told you, I am a poor artist, so I couldn't make something very elaborated as a drawing. But I think that the card must be a symbol, not a
Mm.
collection of symbols.
Yeah.
And people make confusion between symbols and signs. This is in speaking using the terminology Gustav Jung technology terminology. I mean, he says that the cross on a signal on the street, yes, is a sign, is a crossing, is a street crossing. A cross in a church is a symbol, is Christianity, and so
Mm.
on. Okay, if I want to make a symbol of Christianity, definitely I don't want. But if I want, I put the cross and nothing else. If you look, most of tarot decks, Virtues is a sample, is full of things. Oh, let's put also this. So let's imagine this, we are talking about Christianity. Oh, let's put also this to oof, lost the word, to symbolize the chastity, because chastity is important in for Christians. Anything you put in addition to the symbol is limiting the
Mm.
symbol. So what I try to do, not completely, I mean, is not perfect on this. I try to make just the symbol spoiled by all the other. the other things not connected. So the cards are very minimalist for this.
Yeah. And with symbol, you see, with symbol, we have a language. That's why I know that you don't read Lenormand, but Lenormand is pretty much a symbol on every card. You have a fox, you have a bear, you have a child. And if the decks are overcrowded, if it's too much going on, generally readers don't like that, good readers, because you just need to have a very clear symbol. One, if I see a bear or fox, I don't want to see a house or a tree, right? I just want to see a clear symbol because I know what symbol is. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are here 1.5 hours, Marco. Before we go, I've got a question for you. What is tarot to you?
What is tarot for me?
Hmm.
One of my hobbies, my after hour activities. I mean, as I told you, I like to write about hi-fi. I like to go to concert, to opera. I had to stop many of my hobbies because of the age, so I cannot no more go on the motorbike, so to say. But it's well, for sure. Tarot is not my in the center of my life. This is obvious. I don't make a life on tarot, on selling tarot. But it's important for the spirit. Well, I liked making decks, especially the decks on request. I like
Hmm.
knowing that you are making a deck for that person. Remember at the beginning. Now I'm made too many, but the first decks I felt like I feel like Bonifacio Bembo making the deck for Prince Visconti.
Hmm.
So yeah. Eh, this is important. Then, Tarte, I told you I don't read future. I don't like to do it. I have to do sometimes for close friends the task, but for myself, I use for meditation and yoga. Well, I thought about yoga is not for me. My juncture not right for yoga. I use tarot.
You can breathe, you can practice yoga for everybody.
Yes. Ah,
Richard
yoga,
loves his
yoga
yoga
meditation.
material.
And this is one
Mm.
of the this deck I made only for Richard. I have in this deck.
I've seen the pictures. I've seen Richard pictures, the lines, the golden lines of Mitzeli. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so if we don't get have any more questions from people, we'll probably just end it here because I know it's getting a little late for you, Marco, and for people in Europe as well.
Yeah.
It's well, good morning to us in the southern hemisphere. It's early morning for us here. But please stay for a few minutes after. But yeah, thank you so much, Marco, for joining me for this live
For
conversation.
for
And
inviting.
I hope you enjoyed our time together. We can do it again, of course, at any time. And thank you so much to everyone who joined us in the live chat and participated. And to those of you who, of course, will be watching back, we wish you a nice weekend and we'll see you around on our online platforms. Bye, everyone.
Ciao.